各位亚洲的朋友，早上好。至于在美国的东岸西岸的朋友，现在是下午，跟您问声下午好。主打机载发射的维珍轨道 Virgin Orbit 将进行2023年首次，也是第一次于英国境内进行发射。他们准备利用这个747机载发射LauncherOne火箭。我们将接下来为您进行这个中文直播。如果您注意看到画面的左边左边有提到说是这个发射时间，现在距离发射时间还有大概这个起飞747起飞的时间还有11分钟，起飞以后大概要花这个1个小时的时间，把这个飞机的高度提升到35000英尺，在差不多在几十分钟1个小时左右的时候才会发射这个 LauncherOne 火箭。这一次的发射名为 Start Me Up， 它是源自英国滚石乐团的同名歌曲。这一次这个 LauncherOne 上面一共这个运载了9颗卫星包括这个 RHEA 集团的DOVER卫星，还有英国国防科技实验室跟美国国家侦察办公室合作的卫星，另外还有空中巴士防卫与太空公司的卫星准备进入轨道，一共是9颗。这一次如果大家有注意看到媒体报道有提到，这一次可以说是这个英国第一次发射火箭运送卫星进入轨道。其实这样的报道刚开始的时候有一点不能让人家相信，因为英国在科技跟国防特别是太空工业也相当发达。但是我们查了一下资料，过去英国的确曾经发射过火箭，但是在英国境内发射火箭运送卫星进入轨道，这的确还是头一遭。过去英国的卫星多半是送到这个国外进行发射。业界认为现在英国空域利用这个机载发射卫星将有助减低成本，也增加这个英国卫星设计研发的产业竞争力。好，我们现在看到这个飞机即将要起飞。距离起飞大概还有7、8分钟。今天发射预计要运载9颗卫星进入轨道，原本 Virgin Orbit 打算在11月或者是在12月圣诞节前进行发射，但是因为等待这个项目批准等诸多原因被迫延后到今天。维珍轨道 Virgin Orbit 在纳斯达克代码是 VORB， 总部是位于加利福尼亚州的 Long Beach， 由英国的亿万富豪布兰森爵士是参与创立，后来是在2021年的8月是公开上市。 您看到的是这个维珍轨道在英国进行今年首次也是第一次在英国以及欧洲境内利用747飞机发射这个LauncherOne火箭。我们正在为您进行中文的直播解说。这一次发射取名是根据这个英国滚石乐团的一个歌曲叫做 Start Me Up作为代号，一共要发射9颗的卫星。我们来看现场的这个原声。还有3分钟起飞。现在这个747这个叫做宇宙女孩代号，这一架客机叫宇宙女孩的这一架这个747飞机已经进入滑行道。如果排定是在10点01分起飞现在看起来这个发射时间起飞的时间跟未来的接下来的发射安排还算是相当准时。目前客机已经进入滑行道，准备要起飞。目前运载 LauncherOne 的火箭正准备要起飞。
As you can see on our visuals right now, Cosmic Girl is taxiing. Like I had said earlier, we had cleared all of our launch commit criteria and cleared for takeoff. Our ground crew had cleared the area, and our pilots are ready for takeoff. So we're just positioning ourselves for wheels up, still planned in the next minute or two. As Natalie had said earlier, this is our second nighttime takeoff. Our last mission was also a nighttime. And some folks in the area of Cornwall and also the counties I mentioned earlier in the south part of Ireland may have noticed in the last couple of weeks Cosmic Girl making some practice runs out there off the coast. Cosmic Girl is now on the runway taking off.
现在飞机已经进入这个跑道，在这个加速当中。现在飞机已经起飞。
Wheels off the ground. Godspeed LauncherOne, Godspeed Cosmic Girl on this historic.
这个代号叫宇宙女孩的这个747飞机啊，目前是起飞飞向夜空当中。目前当地时间已经是晚上的10点多，飞机还要飞行1个小时才会进行这个空中的发射。
As I'd mentioned earlier on the flight path description, Cosmic Girl will now bank to the left and take her route, which is approximately west-southwest out over the ocean from Spaceport Cornwall.
LD Radiohead on control room, S-band lock acquired a new key.
Copy, S-band lock acquired a new key.
Up until the disconnects a few minutes ago, the data or the data that you had seen coming through any of our graphical user interfaces was coming through a umbilical connection to our ground support equipment. One of the things that makes us special as a launch provider is our agility, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But the bulk of our ground support equipment is mobile, meaning that some of the new aircraft we have purchased here at Virgin Orbit, being cargo aircraft, we can load a couple of rockets plus all of the ground support equipment, which includes our rocket fuel and our liquid oxygen conditioning ground support equipment, can be loaded on the aircraft itself and then transported to whichever runway can support a 747. So we unload the rockets, we mate the payloads to the front, usually through a special clean room that has been set up. We also have a mobile clean room that we can bring to different launch sites. Then it's attached to the rocket, and that can be done either inside a clean room or while it's still attached under the wing of Cosmic Girl. And we've done that a couple of times on recent missions, where we essentially back up the payload conditioning trailer to Cosmic Girl while she is attached under wing with LauncherOne, and then done the connection there. So the idea is that we can fly to your port or your airport, your spaceport, land, roll out our ground support equipment, our payload processing facility, do the work over a few days, connect it up to your facilities, and then take off, launch the rocket, come back to the base, and then fly to the next port. You can see on the graphical user interface here, all of our temperatures and pressures remain to be nominal. Some of the more interesting stuff you'll see is now down at the bottom of the screen, where the Cosmic Girl panel shows that she's currently a little over 300 miles per hour and steadily climbing, just gone past 12,000 feet.
Cosmic Girl, of course, like any other aircraft, is captained. And that means that the captain on board in the cockpit is the person that is the authority on the vehicle. So there may be some slight changes to altitude climbing or the trajectory that Cosmic Girl uses to move out to the racetrack, and that's up to the captain. But generally what we expect to see here is that when we're in the racetrack for the Cold Pass, we'll be at approximately a little over 35,000 feet. I had mentioned the data coming through earlier through an umbilical. Once we had disconnected from that IT trailer that's sitting on the tarmac next to Cosmic Girl, all of our data is being streamed through RF links, or radio frequency links. So they're essentially a type of Wi-Fi. Our aircraft has that, so our rocket data will come up to the aircraft, and then the aircraft can transmit back to the ground, and you can see the live data that you see here on the GUI. Once the rocket is dropped, it has its own S-band transmitter. It's a relatively tried and true technology, S-band. It's the same technology that streamed the photos of the initial Apollo moon landing through the Parkes Radio Telescope in New South Wales, Australia, back before I was born. But that will be transmitting to multiple ground stations that are across the globe as we fly our trajectory to orbit. We will show some graphics a little later in the program that show the trajectory of the rocket today, as well as the ground stations that will be tracking her as she works her way to release the payloads.
Wow, that was amazing. I had to step out and see that with my own eyes. So thank you, Chris. That was so informative as well. I'm absolutely buzzing. That was huge. And now we can't wait for rocket launch. I'm now joined in the studio by a good friend, Steve Isley, who is Vice President of Business Development from Virgin Orbit. Hi.
Hey, Mel. Yeah, I mean, what an exciting day. And I'm really pleased to introduce the Secretary of State, Grant Shapps, who's in charge of the Department for Business, Energy, and Industrial Strategy, leading an economy-wide transformation by backing enterprise and unleashing the UK as a science superpower through innovation. Grant, thank you so much for being with us here on this historic day. You've really been instrumental in helping bring launch to the UK and supporting the industry. You probably know this is actually the first, of course, historic launch from UK soil and also historic launch from Western Europe. Tell our viewers, what does this day mean for the UK?
Yeah, no, we're very excited about the launch. I mean, this is something which we've been working on for more than a decade now. As you rightly say, the UK tonight will become the first country to launch satellites from European soil, and that's been a long process involving a lot of folks, not just at Virgin, but throughout our space sector, which employs about 47,000 people. It's much bigger than most people realise. The other thing people possibly don't know is that more satellites are produced in the UK anywhere outside of California. So we're big into producing particularly the smaller and the nano satellites, the type that Virgin Orbit put into space. And so to see these 9 go up finally this evening, it's extremely exciting, and we're delighted to have backed this launch. And Cornwall could be one of 7 spaceports springing up throughout the UK. So we were excited to see this one and others develop.
And you mentioned some of the industry here in the UK. So how do you think this and future launches will really help propel the space ecosystem in the UK, including jobs? And what makes the UK such a great destination for launch and for space?
Been set.
Yeah, I mean, for a start, I think anything like a space launch just puts it front and center of people's minds. I was just watching the top of the 10 o'clock news here on the BBC, and I see they were giving this a mention and saying that the satellites are being launched right now. It brings people's attention to it. So if you're a youngster and you're watching this tonight or you're catching up on it tomorrow, you'll be understanding that space launches are something that happens.
你现在看到的是 Virgin Orbit 进行2023年首次也是第一次于英国，甚至可以说是在欧洲境内利用747飞机进行机载发射LauncherOne火箭。我们正在为您进行中文直播解说。目前虽然我们可以看到一些讨论，但是飞机现在是在盘旋爬升当中大概要花几十分钟要升到这个35000英尺以上，然后才能会进行这个发射。这一次发射的名称是取自这个滚石乐团的一个歌曲，叫 Start Me Up。因为是在英国发射嘛，特别是这个应景，而且跟这个意思有一点关系，因为我们知道这一次可以说是英国头一次是发射火箭运送卫星进入轨道。过去英国曾经发送卫星，也曾经发射火箭，不过卫星多半是送到国外是进行发射，那发射的火箭当时并没有运载卫星。所以英国业界认为，现在在英国空域利用机载发射卫星不但可以减低成本，还可以增加英国卫星设计研发的产业竞争力对于这个产业有带动的作用。
Other spacefaring nations, so as a nation leading in the space realm, and two, really international partnerships. I mean, I know that this is important for UK, you mentioned the other launchers, but clearly space is an international cooperative industry, and so working across country lines is equally important.
That is absolutely true, and just in the autumn we signed a deal essentially with the European Space Agency. We put in, I think the figure springs to mind is over £1.8 billion. We've secured 3 more British astronauts. So we're working in the international sphere, so in Europe, but also with NASA and a whole variety, and have historically done so. Kind of interestingly though, you ask a really interesting question, because the UK is the only...
如果您刚刚加入我们在这个画面的左边有2个这个时钟，一个是这个起飞的时间，目前起飞在空域当中已经超过14分钟，距离这个 drop time 也就是这个 release 这个 LauncherOne 它的时间还有52分钟。
Of space ever since though, because I was just looking back, you only have to go back to 2019 and there are only about 500 satellites launched globally, but in 2021, so just a couple of years later, there were 1,900 satellites launched. So you can see this is a massively growing market, particularly the smaller
nano satellites, some of which are no bigger than a shoebox, that the United Kingdom really has great speciality in as well as some of the bigger ones, which we've always put. So there's a big market, and we want to work globally. We want to do that, but we also think that we can grab probably as much as 30% of the launch market on these smaller satellites, which is something we're very keen to do.
I think that's absolutely right. I mean, the UK has all the pieces to the puzzle. You've got all the satellite manufacturers, you've got incredible universities, you have the logistics, and now you have the launch capability. So really, you have this end-to-end sustainable space applications mission capability that is unrivaled practically
for the small satellite market in particular, and definitely joining the other few nations that actually have their own launch capability. So I think really that we're pleased to be your partner on this journey and help make that a reality. Maybe
well, thanks very much. It's great to hear you say that, because folks won't know, but we generate about £16.5 billion from space income each year in this country, and it's only set to grow. And we're going to work internationally to make that happen, and having this launch capability from British soil clearly puts us front and centre of that.
Absolutely. And finally, I think some people know that you're a pilot yourself, so as you know, captive carry is happening. Our pilots are going on this journey going forward. Maybe you could talk a little bit about your experience as a pilot. Just what's going through your mind? Like, what is your mental state right now, and how exciting is this for the people that are really on the front lines here of this launch?
Well, obviously I offered Virgin Orbit the opportunity to use me as the pilot, and I'm just kidding. I think everyone who flies, everyone with a pilot's license knows that the thing that you're always doing before a flight is you're going through the pre-flight checks in your mind, and then after that you go through the whole sequence of thinking through the flight. I visualize the flights that I take in advance, and I know that the captain will be doing exactly that. Incredibly experienced RAF pilot flying the aircraft this evening. He will have run through this, has done it, of course, in reality as well, so it's not just a sort of principle thing. And that visualization, I always find as a pilot, really helps the process of flying. And of course, on a mission as important as this, I know that is the work that will be going on in advance.
Yeah, we're of course rooting for our pilots, we're rooting for our engineers, we're rooting for our team. I know the country's behind this mission. We're excited to be here in the UK. Grant, in the few seconds we have left, is there anything else you'd like to tell our viewers maybe about this mission, or about some other insights and parting words, if you will?
Well, look, when I came down to Newquay,
目前这个现场是在进行讨论。现在这个747，也就是宇宙女孩这一架这个747这个飞机啊，目前是在空中不断的进行盘旋啊，一直到这个空域的上空。达到35000英尺才会进行发射。现在距离这个LauncherOne它的 release 的时间还有48分钟多。我们知道这个LauncherOne火箭这次运载一共有9颗卫星，包括这个 RHEA 集团的一颗这个 DOVER 卫星，还有英国国防科技实验室跟美国国家侦察办公室合作的卫星，另外还有空中巴士防卫与太空公司的卫星要进入轨道。英国在过去曾进行这个火箭发射，但是利用火箭运送卫星进入轨道，今天这还是头一次。我们知道英国在这个空域上面有相当多的卫星，不过过去英国的卫星发送多半是送到国外进行发射。那现在能够在本国的这个所谓的航空港、太空港这个新的这个起飞的基地起飞英国的业界认为对于他们这个卫星的设计研发可以带来新的产业竞争力。今天的这一次这个发射本来已经延后一段时间，本来一开始说是在11月，后来说是12月，希望在圣诞节前发射都因为这个项目批准等一些原因是不断的延后，最后是延到今天进行发射。目前这个飞机已经盘旋在空中，目前还在进行这个等待的时间，还有40多分钟。 才会这个release 的LauncherOne火箭。大家如果有注意到今天维珍轨道的这个在股票的一个表现好像有点不理想，今天还是这个下跌蛮多的时间，至少在盘中是有出现下跌。那本来说这个一个画面会我们看到有人就说会不会有画面，应该是有机上空拍的画面这样子，但是还有一段时间。我们看到有人留言说这个会不会有画面今天其实是比较特别，在过去的转播当中，通常在这个发射时间，现在距离发射时间还有这个40多分钟会有那个机上的人员这个按一个特别的一个我记得是一个红钮，然后这时候这个LauncherOne会先下降，等于是脱离掉落，然后再点火再发射，会有飞离的画面不过大家可能要理解一点，是今天是这个夜间发射，也就是英国现在已经很晚了，已经晚上的10点24分可以说是外面一片漆黑，能不能很清楚呈现这个火箭分离然后飞离的一个画面可能我们等一下来看。我想点火的这个镜头发射应该还是可以看得到的，这是目前我能够得到的一些相关的消息。在这个747机旁边，大家看这个LauncherOne火箭好像觉得很小，实际上是一枚相当大的火箭，它甚至比一些这个小型新创从地面垂直发射的火箭都要来的这个长它的长度据我了解有21公尺可以说是相当长的一个长度 你目前看的是这个地面在这个等待的这个一个镜头啊。现在英国的晚上已经是晚上10点半，而且天气实际上是有一点冷哦。 如果您是刚刚加入我们啊，目前这个747起飞已经超过35分钟，距离 release 的 LauncherOne 火箭还有大概31分钟左右。我们来听听这个目前现场的相关解说。
When we light that candle, things are going to happen very, very quickly. For those that have been watching our GUI, you can see that all of our fuels are nominal. But one thing that we are watching, keeping a close eye on, is our payload adapter fairing temperature. During the climb, the aircraft right now is at, I believe, just over 30,000 feet, which is nominal. And during the climb, we were moving through the clouds in a storm cell. One thing we like to do during our captive carry is actually do a little fin wiggle to make sure that if there is any icing that occurs on the rocket during captive carry, we're able to break that away. We detected no icing during the captive carry up to this point, but we did that little execution anyway, and that all worked nominal. We are tracking nominally, I keep saying nominal, which is a good thing. We are tracking nominally on our flight path out towards the racetrack right now. We'll be back in a moment.
刚才这个现场解说人员说，他们目前在监测的一些相关的重要数据哦，包括这温度啊，火箭有没有结冰。目前这个飞机是盘旋超过3万英尺的上空啊，距离这个火箭脱离还有29分钟左右。
since the very existence of the NRO started over 60 years ago, we've really taken great pride in how innovative, how we like to advance the state of the art and the art of the possibility when it comes to operating in space. This was just really another one of those opportunities to do something brand new, to do something exciting, and that's all really truly in our DNA.
And so, of course, I mean, there are other launch sites, historic launch sites in the USA, like Cape Canaveral, Vandenberg. What do you see as the value of having additional launch sites, in particular out of the United States?
Yeah, anytime that we can go to any different launch site, any different launch capability, that adds diversity to the portfolio of launch solutions that we as the NRO launch providers are able to give our customer set. That enables them to be able to not hinder what they're doing with their technologies, and really opens up the aperture for more advancement and more ability to do what we need to do in space.
And so do you see then there being potential advantage or value to geographical spread, particularly when you think about launching internationally?
Oh, no doubt. And that's just, again, the diversity that we're talking about. And any time that we're not committed to any one or two launch sites, that just it enables us to do different things, to do better things from wherever we need to do.
Absolutely. And yeah, we agree. We think there's definitely different opportunities to provide access to different orbits and mission capabilities internationally. So moving to another topic, there's that phrase responsive launch, responsive space, and it's a pretty exciting term in the national security world in particular. What do those terms mean to you, and how is that important to your mission?
Yeah, responsive launch from my perspective is really being able to be responsive to my satellite customers' needs, to be able to deliver a launch solution when they need it, where they need it, how they need it, unconstrained. So having vertical launch, having horizontal launch, all of those things, add additional toolbox, adds to my toolkit that I can take to my customer set.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, launching on demand potentially would be a whole nother benefit within a 24-hour period or so, which is something Virgin Orbit is trying to accomplish. So another question would be, a lot of what you and your NRO colleagues have talked about when discussing this mission in particular is the value of the partnership. I think the international partnership in particular with the UK RAF. With all that's going on in the world and in space right now, both in the areas of conflict and in times of peace, what do you see as the start?
你现在看到的是这个 Virgin Orbit 在现场设置的转播台啊，他们刚才有讨论一个非常重要的地方，就是讲到这个 Virgin Orbit 它的能力，机动能力，可以在世界有机场可以起飞747飞机的地方，就有机会能够把它变成一个火箭的发射场，这也是这个 Virgin Orbit 它的灵活性的地方。如果大家还有兴趣的话，事实上在这个今天转播的解说的内容当中，也有过去探讨这个 Virgin Orbit 它的优缺点，就是它的优点以及它可能面临的挑战啊。那的确它是能够很容易在世界许多的地方，等于说是开设这个火箭的机动发射的机会哦。不过747的养护，另外这个机载发射它本身的一些限制，特别是这个火箭它的承载的重量跟能力哦，实际上也是有局限性的。那就是看公司要怎么样的运作，怎么样定位，怎么样进行这个市场的规划。那我们现在距离这个 LauncherOne 火箭跟747脱离还有21分钟左右，我们静待整个发射的过程。
So you definitely see that this type of partnership is something that will be valued going forward, and more such missions will likely be accomplished in the future.
Well, yeah. I mean, anytime who knows what tomorrow looks like, right? But again, anytime I can provide unique solutions, any other kind of launch solutions to my customer set, that's attractive to them. So yeah, we certainly hope to. Yep. This has been the Cornwall community here, the Cornwall Spaceport, the Newquay community have just been absolutely fantastic. You know, we were in a taxi the last time we were down here, and they were like, "Oh, are you out here for the launch? That's so exciting!" It's, you know, the community is just really embracing, and it's fun to be a part of that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, especially being a historical first here, I mean, it really means something to be part of it. So
it is, you can feel that excitement, you know, whether it's in the taxi cab or at the launch site. And then finally, the other major element of the partnership that often gets discussed is between government and commercial industry. How is the ability to leverage commercial industry in particular, and in order to tap into new capabilities, change the way that you and your colleagues work and think about missions?
Well, and it enables us to really unlock the innovation. You know, that we are all about advancing technology and innovating. Nobody does that better, more efficiently, quicker than the commercial environment. So anytime that we on the government side are able to put constructs in place, like the contract that we used to acquire this particular launch service, that really harnesses the energy and the power that's in that commercial industry, so we can work together better and ultimately advance our U.S. and allied capabilities.
Yeah, I can agree more, of course, on the commercial side. But I mean, and we likewise appreciate the partnerships with government entities that are also encouraging and supporting new technologies to come to the market. So it definitely is, you know, it's a symbiotic relationship that I think fosters and supports both sides. So Colonel Davis, it's really been a pleasure having you here today, and we thank you for coming down to Cornwall. Do you have any final thoughts or words you'd like to say as we get ready for the launch?
No, I just, again, thank you. Thanks to Mel, who's been the host most of today on this, her and her team, and then the Virgin Orbit and Virgin Orbit National Systems teams have just been fantastic to partner with on this particular mission. And I personally have been really proud to just play a small role in it. So thanks very much.
Thank you. All right, back to you guys.
我们来听现场的相关解说。目前这个距离起飞已经有53分钟，距离这个LauncherOne火箭脱离点火还有12分钟的时间。目前这个飞机盘旋爬升的高度是30193英尺啊，预计要爬升到35000英尺以上，才会进行发射，这样有助于这个LauncherOne火箭它会drop， 就是说会这个掉落一段很短的距离，然后再点火再进行发射。那目前我们可以看到这个示意图啊，可以说是这个监测的一些电流，一些这个目前的燃料的一些状况，还有特别是一些温度方面的监测。现在距离这个火箭脱离发射还有11分钟多。我们前面听到主持人跟这个来宾特别提到这个 Virgin Orbit 在发射上它的优势，它可以很轻易很快速，特别应客户要求到一些指定的机场进行运载，然后进行发射。这个的机动性几乎是其他的小型新创没办法去比拟的，因为它的灵活性相当好。但是同样也是有许多的挑战，特别是这个747飞机目前已经不进行新的生产，那整个在维修养护上面实际上是非常高昂的花费那这一笔花费都会转嫁在发射上面。另外这个我们知道机载火箭，虽然这个火箭其实并不是小火箭，它长有21公尺，可以说相当长的一个长度但是它能运载的这个有效载荷实际上是相当有限的，因为你想想看，载重的东西不但火箭的推送必须有相当大的配比，另外飞机的载重也有限制，所以这个Virgin Orbit 的这个业务模型是有它的优点，但是也有它的挑战跟局限性。那我们曾经在一个视频当中关于这个 Virgin Orbit 就是代号 VORB 的这一家维珍轨道公司它的运作它的优缺点都有进行分析和讨论，也欢迎点击我们的视频。好的，现在距离脱离发射已经不到10分钟，现在只有9分半左右。这个是英国新打造的一个太空港希望对未来的太空业务，特别是太空发射业务能够带来帮助。
Third one there is DOVER, which is developed by the RHEA group of Belgium, and it's the company's first satellite in its 30-year history. We're very proud to be carrying her on board today, and is being co-funded through the European Space Agency's navigation program and built by Open Cosmos of the United Kingdom. DOVER is a small sat that was created as a pathfinder for resilient global navigation satellite systems. We're going to bring up the GUI again. Just a couple of notes from the MCC. Our launch commit criteria for terminal count has been given the all clear. The terminal count is the portion when the rocket goes into an autonomous mode. We did have some questions on the YouTube stream that I want to address. Some folks saying this is actually the second launch after Wallace and Gromit went to the moon for cheese. Thank you very much for that. And also the use of Fahrenheit versus Celsius. Typically in aerospace world, we use imperial units over metric units. I think that's all I got for the moment. Like I said, we're moving into the cold pass and things are about to get very exciting. So please stay with us.
The moment we've all been waiting for is about to come. But before that, we want to talk a little bit about the mission name, Start Me Up, which is named after the iconic British rock band's record, Start Me Up, that was released by Virgin Records in 1981. I can't think of a better name for the mission, for a starting up launch out of the UK. But let's hear a little bit more from a familiar face, Sir Richard Branson.
Start Me Up. I can't think of a more perfect name for Virgin Orbit's first launch from Spaceport Cornwall than the UK's first launch and the start of an important and exciting new capability. I first heard the Rolling Stones when I was at school, and their songs have been in my head ever since. As a nervous teenager, armed with a tape recorder bigger than me, I interviewed Mick Jagger for Student magazine. And years later, we tried to sign the band, and years after that, we finally managed to bring the Stones to Virgin Records, and they helped make us the biggest independent record label in the world. I remember hearing Keith Richards kick off Start Me Up when we promoted the Stones comeback tour in 2012. A decade on, they're still going strong, and I've loved spending time with them over the years, even if Ronnie Wood beats me at poker and pool. One of the most wonderful parts of Virgin Orbit's missions has been the opportunity to bring the Virgin family together, not least by honouring a Virgin Records artist with each launch. And this should be the most thrilling one yet. Congratulations and good luck to all involved in this launch in Cornwall, the UK and worldwide. Like the song says, once we start it up, we will never stop.
您刚刚听到的是这个亿万富豪这个布兰森爵士啊，提到他第一次听到这个滚石乐团歌曲，以及他过去这个娱乐公司、唱片公司 Virgin 这个娱乐公司跟这个滚石乐团的一些渊源啊。我们知道这一次发射名为 Start Me Up 是根据于英国滚石乐团的一首这个同名歌曲。那目前布兰森爵士也是这个维珍轨道的重要投资人和股东之一啊。现在维珍轨道是一个公开上市的公司，可以供这个投资人自由参与投资啊。不过我刚才在转播前特别看了一下，今天对维珍轨道来说是大事一件，可以说在英国是新开辟了一个新的这个发射场，但是却在股价上却没有太好的表现，这一点实际上是还蛮值得观察的。好的，现在距离这个火箭脱离 点火的时间越来越近，目前只有3分钟左右。我们刚刚看到他们刚才是切换了一个现场画面，但是非常短的时间哦。那刚才有一位网友也在讨论，他就说今天可以被看得到这个发射的画面。原则上在过去的这个 Virgin Orbit 的发射转播当中，他们会有这个机上人员这个按钮发射的一个画面，特别还有机外的摄影机监控可以看到这个 LauncherOne 是这个脱离掉落，然后再点火，然后另外跟拍的飞机可以拍摄到这个不同角度的画面。但是今天比较特别，今天是夜间发射，所以能不能那么清晰看到这些分离的动作，我们还不清楚。不过在空中点火是应该是有机会，因为比较明亮，比较有机会可以看到的。好的，我们现在距离这个分离点火的预定时间还有1分25秒。根据左边的这个倒计时时钟，目前这个 drop time， 也就是目前已经是进行可以准备 drop 的这个状态啊。目前我们可以看到高度是急剧的爬升哦，飞机是突然一下子爬升到31605英尺，而且这个不断的爬升当中啊，很显然是他们随时准备会发射哦。哇，你可以看到这个高度突然一下子到这将近37000英尺的一个高度。我们来听现场的解说哦。
On the screen right now, we have made it through our cold pass, and we're now working through the hot pass. The counter on the left-hand side is a little bit of a misnomer because it's really drop ready time. And I also did want to mention, you probably saw a quick camera feed that we had where the screen looked black. That's actually nominal because that was a live camera feed from the camera that's actually on the rocket underneath the payload fairing. You can see now, this is an aft camera view from the drop. So we have, it looks to be a successful ignition of the stage 1 engine as we make our way to space.
现在这个火箭已经脱离了，刚才我们并没有看到脱离画面，不过这个是这个火箭本身监控的像头哦，应该是从上面往下可以看到火箭LauncherOne已经点火进行发射，目前高度才会不断快速的提升哦。可以看到目前的速度是飞速，而且它的高度是快速的提升，现在已经有14万将近15万英尺的一个高度，等于火箭上升速度非常快。接下来下一个动作就是第一节跟第二节要进行分离。
Like I had said before, a lot happens very quickly after drop. You can see here that we're actually getting towards the end of our stage 1 burn. Everything is nominal so far. We've had our pitch up on the bottom, on the burn time that you can see on the graphical user interface if you do have that one off. We have made it through max Q alpha, which is one of the most stressful physical moments for the rocket, very comfortably through max Q. And then also through our maximum heat, aerodynamic heat heating. We have made it through MECO, our main engine cutoff, that is our Newton 3 engine shutdown, is reported as nominal.
主引擎这个关闭，然后进行脱离。
And if we can go back to our aft camera.
Fairing brake wire is broken.
We have stage separation. You may see dropouts in the data during the flight here. That is expected as we're switching between the different ground stations that are picking up the signal from the rocket.
Switching data source to Nuki.
Now, as you can see, the trajectory that's being shown on the screen is no longer of Cosmic Girl because she is on her way back to Spaceport Cornwall in the UK. The trajectory is now tracking LauncherOne as she makes her way down the Atlantic Ocean towards the Canary Islands.
Stage 2 trajectory nominal.
Stage 2 trajectory nominal. That means our flight path is as expected, being picked up by those ground stations. We're probably almost coming up on halfway through our stage 2 burn number 1. On the GUI here, you can see in the center there, obviously the cool flame coming out the left-hand side, but you can see the fuel and the oxygen leaving the stage as it goes through the engine. Another really neat thing to see is the gimbal over on the left-hand side. The blue square with the dot in the middle shows you the position of the engine as it is steering stage 1.
Stage 2 burn nominal.
Altitude now is looking at around about 600,000 feet. Approximately 3 miles per second. Bus voltages for the batteries are nominal. You may have noticed that we had a lower voltage while we were in captive carry.
Data source to
and
Madrid.
That's because the power was being provided by Cosmic at that point before we switched over to the rocket's internal batteries.
Stage 2 burn is a little longer than the stage 1 burn, so this might take a little while for us to get to second engine cutoff 1. As I said earlier, there are points of the flight where we don't have the telemetry coming from the rocket because we are out of view of the ground stations.
Our flight software folks have implemented a store and forward on our rocket, which means that when we are out of view of the ground stations, we are storing that data so that the next time we do come in view of a ground station, we can download it and
confirm target lock
through.
from Madrid. Data source switch to Madrid.
Yeah. Our Madrid ground station has locked on to our rocket and is streaming the data now.
目前看起来就是地面的应该是在通讯跟
confirm signal from Maspalomas switching telemetry source to Maspalomas.
是属于一个失联的一个状态。特别是我们知道地球是有弧度的，是会有通讯上的一些背面跟死角。
You just heard the call for Newton 4 shutdown. Newton 4 is our stage 2 engine.
So that is the completion of the first burn of our second stage. You can see along the bottom of the screen right now, our flight timeline has been updated to show the Cosmic Girl is returning, obviously, and then LauncherOne, which takes up the majority of the flight timeline there, is at our S2 cutoff, or our second stage engine cutoff.
So now's probably a good time to talk a little bit about our rocket profile. Like I said, once we get to drop, a lot of stuff happens very, very quickly. What you might have seen is initially after the drop, around about 5 seconds or so after the drop, because we need to make sure that our aircraft is safe and out of the way, we fire what we call our propellant settling thrusters, or our PSTs, and they're solid rocket boosters that are on the back of LauncherOne, and they give the rocket a little push forward to settle our propellants for stage 1. And then we have that main engine start, or MES, for S1. And then you saw over, I think it was about 3 minutes or so, our stage 1 burn, which, as I had said before, does most of the heavy lifting, and our main engine cutoff. Separated from stage 2, and stage 2 has to do the work for the rest of the journey. We start our second stage engine, which is the burn that just happened. And during that burn, we separate our fairings. And what that does, it opens up the pointy end of the rocket, essentially, through ordnance firing. That opens up that section and exposes the payloads. We continue to fly under power on our second stage during that first burn, and then we'll have that cut off. And you can see the graphic on the screen right now. We again get to the coast, which is the phase that we're in right now. And we do a maneuver. We execute a maneuver called the barbecue roll. So essentially we are rifling through the atmosphere. And what this does is it avoids one side of the stage from getting too hot and the other from getting too cold. Our rocket is covered in a spray-on foam insulator, but this is a very standard maneuver procedure that most rocket companies execute. Once we've finished our coast, we will do a second engine start, so SES2. So we restart our second stage engine to lift us a little more, and then we'll cut off that engine, and after that will be our payload separation. And that's when we can start popping champagne corks and dancing. After payload separation, we do have a couple of extra things that we want to do here during this mission, and we will do a maneuver called the CCAM, or the Contamination and Collision Avoidance Maneuver. And then we will actually fire our second stage for a third time. So you'll hear calls for SES, or Second Engine Start 3, and then SECO, or Second Engine Cutoff 3. Once that's complete, we go into a phase that we call safing, and then the mission is complete.
目前进展都还算顺利哦。这一次预计是要布放9颗的卫星，那我们待会应该就会知道今天的任务是不是圆满成功。这是地面控制中心的一个画面。
You can see images on screen right now from our Mission Control Center over in Cornwall, the UK.
这控制中心目前是在这个英国。我们知道 Virgin Orbit 的总部是在加州，美国的加州，所以是临时架设进行这个现场的指挥。
Take a moment to say how much we appreciate the folks that came out to Cornwall this evening to watch our launch. It is a historic day, obviously, for the United Kingdom, but for Eastern Europe as well.
今天对英国来说也可以说是非常有历史性的一天啊！他们非常感谢
those folks that have joined us on the
现场有许
live
多
stream
民众是亲自到现场来观看这一次的起飞跟火箭分离发射。这一次不但是这个 Virgin Orbit 第一次在英国，就在美国之外，等于说是国际的空域当中进行这个发射。另外对英国来说也有历史性的意义，因为过去英国的一些卫星都是委托这个国外的发射，并没有在自己国家的领空上面是发射这个卫星过去也曾试射过火箭，但是利用火箭运载卫星发射，这一次可以说是第一次。 好的，这个发射以及播放卫星的时间比我们想象中长哦。那今天的直播就先到这里结束。
So yeah, just a quick update here from the MCC. We'll be back with more in a moment.
我会在这个评论区里头会总结这一次发射的结果，非常感谢大家的来访跟收看，也请如果对这样的东西感兴趣，也欢迎您订阅我们的频道，以后会有更多类似的一些直播，谢谢。